very happy to be here with you, and I thought I would just start by asking you a couple questions. Usually you might have some questions for me, but I want to know about you. How many of you have chosen this path as a first career? Raise your hand. First career. Oh, very good. Second? Third career?
Yes.
Third career, second career, fourth and 10th? Are you holding up 10th career?
Reinvention.
Interesting. Interesting. I love that. So how about you? Is it your second, third, fourth? First. Excellent. Okay, so we got a couple first times. I know many of us go, well, these are the smart ones right here that have gotten into the right industry that the rest of us had to take. We had to try a couple things before we wound up in the real estate field. I got into real estate the same way. It was my third career, and I was my very first job in my life, actually before I was of working age, wink wink, was answering my phones at my mother's mortgage brokerage.
Oh, wow.
She drugged me to open houses. She drugged me to showings. This is back in the 80s, before child labor laws were really as stringent as they are. But I vowed I'm going to do my own thing. I'm never getting into real estate. Yes, so here we are. So I thought I would just tell you a bit about me. I already mentioned my first job was at my mom's mortgage company. She was a realtor, then she was a mortgage banker, then she went back into real estate. She was a broker. She pretty much tried everything. And she was an agent back in the 70s and 80s and early 90s when it was very challenging, kind of like it is today. I myself, part of the reason why I got into real estate is because my husband and I early on decided that we were going to go where opportunity took us, and that was 6 United States, 1 foreign country, and 8 houses later. My mom, I know, it was crazy. My mom would tell me at every time I had a closing, she would say, "Now Cheryl, if you had your license, you would have saved this much money, you would have saved this much time, and you could have done this, this, and this." And I would tell her, "Oh, but Mom, I'm doing my own thing." So I was in music and production. I did creative arts for a very long time, arranging for big band, choir, orchestra, that kind of thing. So nothing like real estate, right? Interesting how these things happen. I landed in Georgia in 2014. I'm not from here, but I got here as quick as I could. And my experience personally, especially relocating overseas, really made me think there are some things that I could help other people with, navigating the ins and outs, not only of relocating, but this whole process of trying to purchase a home, purchase an investment, sell an investment, relocate out or into wherever you're going. And I just thought, I don't know, maybe I could do it. So maybe that's a little bit of your experience as well. When you think back to that experience that you had in your previous 1, 2, 3, 10 careers ago, all of that experience is helpful for you as you go forward. And you know, some people call that pivoting. I just call it having an integrated life. We follow paths that are interesting and profitable for us until they're not, and then we try something else. And that's kind of my story. Some of the things I'm really interested in, I have been in mentoring and leadership development for a couple years now, mainly through one of my wonderfully delightful pursuits, which is Toastmasters. I love helping other people develop their skills, especially since not just standing up in front of a room and speaking, but all of your communication in your job, in your family, in your personal relationships is so very important. And the better you are at that, I think the more effective you can be in those pursuits. So anyway, that's a side thing. I love to play tennis. I got a cricket a couple years ago, and I am completely addicted, so I love crafting. I'm very creative. I love all of that, from writing screenplays to creating wedding decor. I've done everything, probably just like you. It gives me lots of ways to connect with my clients. That's it about me. My company, now I heard you all met Kevin Levent.
Not yet.
Not yet.
He's not been in this
round of training, but he has spoken at our last 2 classes.
Oh my goodness,
so.
our CEO, Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, is nationwide, and our company here in Georgia is Metro Brokers, and we have a wonderful network of offices. And this is important to what I want to talk to you about today, is that our company has set up 26 plus, we have 27 now, we just got a new office. Wow. They're all the same. So you as a pre-closer, closer, whatever it is, you can walk into any one of these offices. Me as an agent, I can walk into any office and have everything I need to create business. And that's really how it's going, whether you're using cloud-based technology and all, you're on the go, or you're in an office. So anyway, so that's fun. That's one of the many things that I appreciate about our brokerage. And you probably, stop me if you've heard this already, but you're a really important part of the real estate transaction process, and it's a little complicated, right? Have you tried yet to explain to someone what it is you're here to learn? And they go, huh? A closer, a pre-closer, a paralegal, what? Wait, I thought you just went and bought a house and moved in. Well, that's because folks like you make the process look easy. Folks like me make the process look easy. But really, what you need to know, and one of the things I would encourage you to remember, is that you're part of a team. And while most realtors, and I hope every realtor that you come across knows that you're not an assistant, that you're part of the team, the things that make you very good, the things that have drawn you to this career, that detail-oriented focus, those things are probably most likely very complementary to the people that you're going to come across in a real estate transaction. And I'm going to be the first to admit that the thing that makes me great at being an agent and great at dealing with people is a thing that makes me kind of not so great at managing all the details that you have to manage in a transaction. So in a transaction, I rely so heavily on our paralegals, which are the pre-closers, the pre-closer closers, that's what they call them at Metro Brokers, and then the closing attorney. So we really rely on your specialty, on your emphasis, on your detail-oriented, because we're running around with clients, right? We're managing this and that, we're running with buyers, we're doing all of those things. So that's, you are so important, and we don't take you for granted. I don't take you for granted. Let's see, some of the things that you may not know about what realtors do and what agents do when we're dealing with clients. As I'm sure you come across in your own life, people are everywhere, all walks of life. We negotiate, we deal with personalities, we try to communicate. Really, if I had a graphic, I've had 5 minutes to create a graphic, it would look like me here and my clients here and about 50 people on this side that I'm attached to. Inspectors, appraisers, the loan officers, the loan processors, the pre-closers, the closers, the closing attorney, all of those kind of things. That doesn't even include what my clients may need as far as repairs, inspections, all that kind of stuff. So you're part of a team, and I rely on our legal, our paralegals as part of our team. I thought it would also be interesting to maybe tell you a story or two. Not much, but I would love to hear some questions. So as you're kind of listening and engaging, I would really love to know, how is it that I can help you make this whole process seem more clear and more easy to navigate? Some of the things that I have experienced have to do with lack of communication. So when you have a lack of communication, or there's a miscommunication, things can go horribly, horribly wrong. I'll give you an example. Now you've already covered some real estate contracts, right? Mm-hmm. You already know those. One of the contracts you probably are not familiar with is the way that agency works, or maybe you are. Have you covered agency in the state of Georgia? So there's a couple different ways we can work with a client. We can work with them as a customer, which is basically just a transaction. We can work with them as a client, which means that the information that we have and that the things that we speak about are privileged, and I have the ability to represent that client and their interests. The third way is not very common. You can work with a customer as a dual. You can be a dual agent. Not fun, not easy. We don't really talk about that too much. But the reason I tell you this is because I was working with a client a buyer as a client, meaning that our information was privileged. I understood what their goals were, and we were looking for a house. Now, you may have heard the market's a little complicated right now, right? Houses are going quickly. There's a lot of competition, even up to, I've seen as high as the 400,000 mark. People are competing with cash buyers. It's very complicated. So my clients were doing what most clients do, and they were looking online, they were searching the map, they were looking at Realtor and Realtor.com and Zillow and all of that, and they came across a builder's site and asked for some more info. I said, great, let's go to this builder's development, and we'll go see how it goes. Well, we went through the whole transaction from start to about the middle of it when I realized that this builder had completely cut me out of the transaction. And it's because builders in the state of Georgia, actually it might be this way in other states, I just don't know, I'm only licensed here in Georgia, they have their own contracts, which I did not know. So all of my team, including the closing and all of that, was kind of switched out to work with this builder. And my clients decided, rather than going into this transaction unrepresented, they decided to cover my commission. Now, the reason I tell you that is just to help you get a little glimpse into the type of challenges that agents face. That was a contract thing. I did not know. Nobody told me. The builder did not say, here's my contract. There's so much initiative, and there's so many ways that you can kind of get burned, let's say. Now, that being said, one of the new things in our contracts this year, and this is not a purchase and sale, this would be a listing contract between an agent and a seller. Conventionally, the seller has paid for the commissions for both the buying and the selling agent. That is changing. The buyer is now expected and encouraged to pay their own representation. So that's a huge change for us. So just a little, that's one of the very many, very various things that can change. And I say that because for you, that'll affect the way that you do business, the way that you're interacting with your realtors, the way that maybe a transaction might be processed. And you've probably heard that saying, blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be broken, right? Any amount of time that you spend in this industry and you're just going to see a lot of change. And it's not a good thing, it's not a bad thing, it's just the way it is. So it's very important, I think, to build connections with your realtors. Don't just kind of, the checklists are great, and that's an essential part of doing your job, but there's a lot of benefit to being in touch with and developing relationships with your realtors. Ask them, on the one hand, how's it going, what's going on, what challenges are you facing, but that also opens the door for them to understand you and the challenges that you have and the requirements that you have. I spoke to one of the closers in our office. I told her that I was coming to speak to you, and I just said, what would you tell yourself if you could go back at the beginning of your journey and tell yourself some bit of wisdom? And she just said, hang on for dear life. Because change comes, whether you want it or not. But another thing that she joked about, and I've heard her say it before, she said, oh, well, we deal with realtors, and she really appreciates that holistic approach of really being a team member. But she said, well, my whole job is keeping my attorney out of jail. I don't know if you get, that's probably not easy for me to say, but we understand that. We know that there's a lot, but the thing that makes me great at being a realtor makes me not so great at understanding what's going on in your lives. So when all else fails, just build those connections and help us understand, help realtors understand that you are really trying to get this transaction closed. The last thing I'll say, we had this particular closer I work with quite a bit. Her name's Tammy Pickle, and she's wonderful. Well, she got COVID, she was sick, and she had about 4 people taking over her caseload. She is such a pro, but it was crazy. It was really a lot going on, and we got to the day before one of our closings, and something was missing. Some approval. She told me the name of it, but again, the thing that makes me great at being a realtor makes me not that detail-oriented in that respect. But she said that her team was calling her she felt like she was in her deathbed. They were calling her saying, oh my gosh, we didn't do this, we didn't do that, we missed something, something got missed, somebody didn't answer, they didn't get an approval. And I was okay because I knew it was Tammy, and I really had that relationship with her, and I could trust her, but we were all a little bit like, biting our nails, like, what happens if this doesn't happen? They got it done. But just know that so much relies on your strengths, which are that detail-oriented, and we don't, I mean, for me personally, I'm not wired that way, and that's okay, because I think that having that excellence in the detail and the checklist and, keeping your attorney out of jail, that is such an essential part of our team. And if you can have a team and be part of a team with a realtor and have that mindset that you are helping that realtor we're public facing, you're helping me look like I got an ace in my pocket. Oh, no worries. My team is on it. I know I'm just one of 25 realtors that you're helping, but my clients don't know that. And when we deliver together this excellent customer service, first of all, you're making me look like a rock star, but also I can give credit back and say, this is my team, this is wonderful, and then hopefully have repeat business. So that, I don't know if that makes sense and if that's easy to follow. But that's about it for me. I would love to, I would love to see you on either side of the closing table, and I would love to hear any questions that you have for me.
How often do you find that closings have to be pushed back for whatever delayed reasons?
One reason or the other? Not extremely often, but it does happen with specific types of transactions. For instance, if the buyer has a special program, there's a program called Georgia Dream. It's for teachers and service people, our local heroes. Some things like that have extra paperwork that is outside of your purview, nothing that you and I can control. Sometimes those things, especially if they're public money or grants, those can really slow things down. I think it doesn't happen that often because most of us, myself included, if the buyer or the seller has, a buyer that's getting a loan, I will make sure that I call the mortgage officer, the loan processor, and just ask them, if I'm on the seller side, they've said they can close in 30 days, is that realistic? On the buyer side, I ask the loan officer first, how realistic is it for us to close this in 28 days? Because realistically now, that's giving my buyers an edge if we can close quicker than someone else because there's so much competition. So it doesn't happen very often. I have had it happen before. Before 2020, I did have one get delayed 3 weeks. That was painful. Every single day we were crying about that. So not very often.
Was it a title issue or a lender issue? Like, do you remember what it was that really kept it
Yes,
delayed?
I do remember that. That was a mortgage issue. The buyers were relocating from out of country.
Oh.
and they just, I don't know if their lender, if they just would not, there was a little bit of a language barrier involved.
Okay.
And their lender kept saying, we'll have everything tomorrow, for 3 weeks.
Wow.
And yeah, at that point, you're already on the hook. My sellers were out of state also. It was just really a pretty
Tough.
Yeah, so the closing team did great. They were just kind of on the ready, set, go mark, ready to go. But no, it was,
Beyond their, some things are just beyond even the closer's control.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not often that my closers have the need to really speak to my clients, but they do, there are certain interactions that they have that are, between my client, and I always really appreciate them saying, hi, this is Tammy, I work with Cheryl and I'm gonna help you with this. Just telling them why I'm calling you, because buyers and sellers, they get a million people calling them for everything, to introduce yourself and to just have that nice personal touch, remembering that you're part of the team that's providing service. So, yeah, good question. Anything else?
How long have you been in Atlanta area? How long have you been here?
I got here, okay, so y'all, I decided, I followed my husband. He said, we're gonna move to Atlanta. We were in San Diego, California. Not sure if you've been there before, but it's like super awesome, nice, like beach,
I was
perfect
like, wait,
weather.
you already got y'all down pat.
I
How that happened?
I know. So we moved, I got here the second week of December in 2014. It was 12 degrees outside,
wow.
and I thought, I have made a terrible mistake. What am I doing here? So I've been there since then, but this has actually turned out to be lovely. I do like the weather, just wasn't used to it at first.
Just that day.
And I did, I think, fall down the stairs right on my
Oh no.
butt the first time, but yes, but that's I survived. Did you have a question?
Yes, I was gonna ask, what are some of the pros and cons of being a realtor?
Oh, good question. Good question. Being a realtor as opposed to being an investor or just a homeowner, or is there a specific kind of, are you like as opposed to being a closer? Because I don't know that much about what you guys are.
Like, I would just say like in real estate in general.
Okay.
She's also considering getting your license potentially someday, so
Excellent.
maybe a
Okay.
personal.
That
interest.
helps, that helps. Okay, pros. I can make my own schedule. I can really, if you have the right mindset, you realize that you're really not competing with other realtors, you're competing with yourself for your sphere of influence. It is very nice to have that independence. I think that is great. But many people don't understand, and what I'm learning over these last couple of years is how to run this like a business instead of like a hobby. And I know that sounds kind of funny, like why would you say that? We're all here in a business setting. Well, I think that lack of accountability and the fact that you have freedom to do whatever you want sometimes can be challenging if you don't set boundaries. So really understanding that while it's great to love houses, I mean, I think we all love real estate, it's interesting. I think it's very captivating, the idea of owning it's the American dream, right? We tend to think that just means we're gonna show houses and just be lovely all day long, but really real estate is all about marketing. That's all. That's all it is, really. If you can be a halfway decent person, have a little bit of that emotional intelligence to be able to make connections with people and understand marketing. If you can master marketing, I think you'll be very successful. That mindset of, oh, I just really love houses and I want to help people. That's a good place to start. But the real work of real estate, I think, as an agent is leading yourself well, kind of being the boss of your own self, making sure that you do those things that are not so fun, like setting up a CRM and being in touch with your database and doing those things like learning, all the CE credits. There's a lot of CE credits that we are required to do, code of ethics, that kind of thing. You'll be fine. Some of the cons are it is difficult to create boundaries, to take time off. It really is, because I have, just for instance, two of my clients are professional truck drivers. They drive all night and they're on their phone talking. They want to talk at 8 o'clock at night because they have to sleep during the day. When you work, from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 3 o'clock in the morning, you don't follow. So some of that lack of boundary, it's not a good or a bad thing, it's just a fact of life, and I'm okay with it, because there are days when I don't really have anything scheduled going on, and I can get other work done. So that's a little challenging. Another thing maybe you might not know about, and I don't know, maybe you've experienced this personally. You know how you get those robocalls that say, "Hi, this is from the Department of Tax and Student Loan Debt," 24/7. Because my numbers, my business line and my phone number are online, I don't have the luxury of not answering my phone. Sometimes if I'm with the client, I know well, you get very good at recognizing other salespeople and gently letting them go. But I really don't have the luxury of not answering my phone. Sometimes I will say, my clients, my friends, they know if I am with a client, I will call you back at my very first opportunity. There are times that I cannot speak for days if I've got a relocation client and they have literally 3 days to find a house and get it under contract. We are morning till night, all night. We are just pedal to the metal. It doesn't happen very often, but that's the downside of the flexibility. On the other hand, I can take a cruise and have a Wi-Fi package and work from the boat. So that's definitely a con. I mean a pro, sorry. Does that
And a con.
And a con, right. You want to be able to just drink your Mai Tai and sit by the pool. Does that give you a little bit of insight?
Yes.
Okay. The other things are very easy. As far as real estate goes, the education, all of that. I'm curious, do you all know what the difference between a realtor and an agent is?
They should know.
Have you
mentioned it briefly?
Oh,
Oh,
anybody
okay.
remember?
All right, well, this is a
what we
test.
said?
All right, let's see if they remember Sandi. Do you know what the difference is? Or could you describe the difference?
The realtor has to comply to the. I feel like I'm on the spot here.
You're close. No, you're
You are
almost
so on the
there.
track. Yes,
You're halfway
you are.
there.
Right? I mean, the Realtors Association and an agent does not. I mean, an agent can have their own contract and doesn't really have to comply in that way.
Well, they still have to comply with, and they have to agree with all the fair
right.
housing laws, all those things.
But they don't have to have like a certain contract and a certain, in that way. I don't know.
You're so on the right track. Realtor, the National Association of Realtors is a professional organization that monitors, oversees, creates all of our contracts, and realtors belong to this. They voluntarily choose this association. We hold ourselves to a higher code of ethics, to a higher standard, and then of course we have access to all of those forms. And it's been a very long time since I've come across someone that wasn't a realtor, but it's an extra step that we take to show, number one, that we're professionals, number two, that we are trustworthy, and there is, like all professional organizations, a process for resolving conflict, for mediating disputes, that kind of thing. So, great answer.
Good job, Julie.
Yeah, good job, Julie. Any other
It
questions?
sounds like a union it protects you, whereas if you're just an agent, you don't have that,
There have-
unity, I guess.
There has been legal action taken on behalf of realtors that have, if you follow some of that news, National Association of Realtors is on Twitter. You can follow their feed. I can also, if you're interested, send you a newsletter or something that just has very localized news and that kind of thing, to know what are some of the things that are relevant to the industry. personally, I find it really helpful to follow the local governments, because some of that legislation is going to affect how you do business, right? But there's a lot to keep up with. So good job.
Where do you get most of your leads? Is it word of mouth, or is it really funneled through Metro brokers, or how does that work for you?
Great question, and I wish I had a good answer for that before I got my license. No, I every now and then we will get a lead from Metro brokers, but the benefit of our brand is that usually people can see, oh, you're at Metro brokers, I know that company. So really, I don't. 99.9% of my leads come from my personal sphere of influence. Word of mouth, another client referring me to someone else, repeat business. I have had some luck on Facebook. I personally, I put a post out a couple years ago that said, hey, just want to remind you, I'm in real estate. And then I started talking about the other thing, and I got a couple calls from that. So it's really everywhere, but like I was mentioning earlier, this marketing thing, keeping in touch with your sphere of influence and connecting with other professionals in the business. So
That's good.
yeah.
Are you with like Zillow or anything like that? Have you done that?
That's a great question, and it leads me to think about paying for leads. I'm on Zillow, but I did not pay for this Premier Agent. There's a Premier Agent service. It is very expensive. When I was mentioning earlier that my phone rings 24/7, it is all people trying to sell me services like Zillow. It's only $700 a month to start. Even Google Verified, Google Screened. Have you seen that on any of the professionals? Google Screened is a new service that Google is doing. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars a month.
Wow.
I've made some mistakes. I tried Yelp once. That was a wash. They charged me for everybody that clicked anything, and I didn't get any business out of it. But it was a learning experience. I put an ad in like a home and decor magazine, and that was super expensive, but it did not really pan out. But all of those things led me to realize that, like most of agents, really it is, being present, having a good